Welcome to the Daily Power Parsha. It is great to have you here with me today. I'm telling you, today is pretty much going to be incredible. Okay, here's what we're talking about. We are right now in the opening Parsha, the opening portion of the book of Numbers. Yesterday we spoke extensively about the name Numbers. What does it mean? Why is it called Numbers? We spoke about the census. We spoke about the Hebrew name of this book, which is Bamidbar, which means in the desert. I gave you kind of like a combo explanation that brought together desert and numbers in the same space. Our job is to illuminate the desert, i.e. the uninhabited places, spiritually devoid places with light and warmth and spirituality. And we do so when we know that we all count. That was yesterday. Today, we continue with our discussion of the Jewish people's travels throughout the wilderness, because as the Torah tells us today, they didn't just haphazardly travel or camp in the desert. Everything was precise. Choreography down to the very last tribe, to the very last family within each tribe. So, here's what you need to know. As the Jewish people would travel through the desert, and they did so for 40 years, and they weren't always traveling, they stayed put for a little bit, but as they traveled through the wilderness, they traveled in a precise formation. There was 12 tribes, some that were positioned one direction, another direction, another direction, another direction. In the center was always the tabernacle, or the ark. In the center was the tabernacle. Let's talk about not when they walked, but when they encamped, when everything was, when they pitched their tents. So they put up, remember the tabernacle, the Mishkan, was a portable sanctuary, a portable structure, made of individual walls, wooden walls, that would connect. They would put the walls in sockets, and then they would put like a pole through it to kind of stabilize it and through the center. Very elaborate composition and construction. But it was made to be portable. Unlike the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, which was built of stone, meant to be a permanent structure, this was meant to be a portable structure that could move as the Jewish people moved, and so it was for many years. But when they stopped, when they encamped, so they unloaded the tabernacle essentially, pulled stuff out of bags, they put some of the holy items literally in bags and covers. They pulled everything out. They set everything up. They had a whole, the Levites and the priests. They set everything up. And at that point, everyone pitched their tents. And the way it worked is, I'm going to show you a picture. This is coming from the Chumash that we use at Chabad in town. We call it the Gutnick edition of the Chumash, but it's a Chumash, a copy of the Torah with an English translation and some commentaries. But it has a really good picture of what this encampment looked like. So I'm going to hold it up. And I'm hoping you can see this. Can you guys see that? Yeah. Is the text reversed, or is it the right way? Can you read it, or is it? Yeah, desert encampment. If you look in the middle, you'll see it says the tabernacle. In that middle box, it says the tabernacle. Now around the that's the Mishkan. That's the sanctuary that they put up. So they put it up, and that was the middle of the camp, the center of the camp. Around the camp, just getting myself oriented. Around the Mishkan, around the tabernacle, were the tribe of Levi, were the Levites. Take a look. You'll see them. Yeah, you'll see it says Gershon, Kahas, Merari. It talks about Moses and Aaron's sons, the Kohanim, the priests. So they flanked the tabernacle on all the sides, various sides. And then, let's let somebody else in. And then around the Levites were the 12 tribes. 3 tribes to the north, 3 to the east, 3 to the west, and 3 to the south. That's the way it was. So there was this, you're kind of getting the picture more or less of the way it looked. So here's the deal. There was this beautiful, very, very organized encampment. Tabernacle in the middle, Levites, well, some priests also in there, and then 3 tribes north, 3 tribes, 3 tribes, 3 tribes. Everything was kind of surrounding the center. The tabernacle was in the middle. This immediately takes us to an insight. And that is, what was the role of the Jewish people surrounding the Mishkan? Was it to protect the tabernacle? Was it to protect the ark, or to protect, the temple space? Does God need human protection? Is that what's going on here? Do human beings need to station themselves around the temple? Not necessarily. But what it means is that there's always a sacred space. There are sacred spaces in the world and sacred spaces in our lives. And it's important to protect those sacred spaces. So let me take a non-literal way of looking at this. And I'm sharing this with you taken straight from the Hasidic and mystical texts. The north represents cold. In the north, go to the North Pole, it's kind of cold. So the north, Canada, right? You go north, it gets a little bit cold. So the north represents that a person might get cold and apathetic, cynical in life. A person, we all have a pure soul inside. The soul is like the tabernacle in the middle, right? The soul is that place of purity. But we have to do our best to protect it against the north. Dangers from the north is coldness, apathy, cynicism. We don't get excited. We used to get excited about things. Now, not so excited. What's the south? We have to protect against the south also. We have to have the southern front protected. Yeah? Listen, this is us. We're the south. What's the south? Heat. And that represents passion and warmth, but maybe misdirected passion. Passion for the things that are not so holy. So we have to protect our soul, the neshama that we have, not only against the cold from the north, but against the passion from the south. And then from the east, the sun rises in the east. And the sun rising represents hope. And it represents joy. And it represents feeling ambitious and accomplishment and seeing things and being excited. And that also might be dangerous. A person might get caught up in a state of arrogance, in a state of feeling pride for their accomplishments or their good ideas or their shining sun from the east. So we have to protect ourselves against pride also. So we're protecting ourselves against coldness, apathy, cynicism, against the south, which is heat and passion, against the east, which is arrogance, and also against the west. The west is where it gets dark. The sun sets in the west. The west represents darkness. Each of us has moments in our lives where we might feel like there's no hope on whatever level. I mean, God forbid we should feel this, but it's possible that a person might despair on some level of something that they once hoped for. And we have to protect ourselves against despair as well. So in this way, the four directions, north, south, east, west, represent four dangers, or four potential dangers that might threaten the inner sanctity of our soul. So just like the tabernacle of old, which was protected on all sides by Levites, by the tribes, so too we have to station ourselves on each of the fronts. Make sure we don't get too jaded, too burnt out, too cold. Make sure we don't get too hot either. Make sure we don't get too, arrogant or boastful, and make sure we don't get too hopeless about life. And with this way, we can protect the inner core. So that's one insight. Another insight regarding the encampment. And again, I'm just sharing you insights from the visual that we just saw, and I'll pull up the verses soon. It's all taken from the verses. But remember, the tabernacle's in the middle, and the tribal arrangement is around it. Beautiful message. What is the heart of Judaism? What is the heart of the Jewish people? It's the tabernacle. And what's the heart of the tabernacle? The ark. And what's in the ark? The Torah. And that, again, it's such a direct message. The direct message is that the heart and soul of Judaism is the Torah. I've said this countless times, and I'll continue to say this countless times. Our survival is due entirely to the Torah. There's no other ingredient that leads to Jewish survival, because all of the other factors that we've had, protection of geography or economy or host nations, all of those have been pulled out from under us at some point throughout the last 3,300 years. We've had our homeland and we've been exiled from our homeland. We had other host countries that were nice who then threw us out, Spain used to be a really nice place to live as a Jew. I'm talking about like 800 years ago, and then that wasn't a thing anymore. England, fine place until they got rid of us. So, the survival is not because of Israel we left or we were kicked out. It's not because of Spain or England yet. It's not because of economy. Jews have been successful at some points in history and have been very not successful, very poor and impoverished at other times in history. It's none of that. It's not because we had a cool language. It's not because we had great clothes or great food to eat. It's because we had the Torah and we stuck to the Torah. That's the key to survival. So what's the heart of the Jewish people? What's at the center of Jewish life? What's at the center of Jewish survival? Literally depicted in this image. What's at the center of the tribes? I'm not even going to show it to you again because you saw it already a few times. Right? What's the center? The center is the tabernacle. And what's at the core of that is the ark with the tablets, the Torah inside. So that's it. That's at the core of who... Ooh, did I just... Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll let you in. Sandrine, I wasn't sure if I clicked let you in or not let you in. I was hoping I didn't hit the wrong button. I did it without looking carefully, but I'm glad you're in. Okay, so again, Torah is at the core of who we are and at the very fabric of who we are. I need to mention along these lines, I've been talking about the Mishkan being a portable temple, which is a cool idea. We're all into pop-up things nowadays. It's like, a pop-up, boutique. Come to North Island Ave. It's a pop-up boutique, one day only. It's super cool. It's like, who wants to go to stores anymore that are permanent? Pop-ups. That's like trendy. Well, guess what? Who started the trend? Yep, we started the trend. We had pop-up tabernacle. Portable. Oh, that's it. Tabernacle, come join us. We're doing services. It's a whole thing. We had the pop-up before the pop-up became a thing. Before it went viral. I hesitate to say go viral because of everything going on. But I digress. So the ark of the covenant, which housed the tablets, which are the core of Torah, right? The Ten Commandments. So the ark was always carried by human beings, never put on a wagon carried by an animal, just because of the respect that we have for that. So it was put on, it had poles in it. The ark was a box, like you can imagine, the name ark means box, I think. So it was a box, like a rectangular box. It was made of gold and wood, gold on the inside. It was gold, wood, gold. So gold on the outside, 3 boxes. Imagine nesting boxes. A gold box, inside of it, tightly fit, a wooden box, and then another gold box inside of it. The inner gold box had a lip that protruded that went...
Bad.
Sorry?
Oh, okay. It's okay now.
Okay, good. I may have glitched out. But that's just me, not the connection. No, I'm kidding. That was just the connection. So you have a gold box, a wooden box, and a gold box. And the inner gold box had a lip that protruded over the wooden box, over that middle layer, so that when you looked at the ark, it looked totally gold, but in the middle there was wood. That's the way the construction was mandated by God. That had 4 on the top were the keruvim, the cherubim or the cherubs, the angelic figures that protruded from the golden cover on top of the ark. Okay, but here's what I want to get to. The ark had 4 rings on it, 4 rings protruding from the sides, and in the rings, 2 on one side, 2 on the other, there was a pole, gold-plated wooden poles that were put into those rings on both sides. And those were the poles that were placed on the shoulders of the Levites, who carried 2 and 2, 2 and 2, 4 Levites, right? There were 2 poles, but long poles attached to the ark. 4 Levites, 1 in the front, 1 in the back on either side of the ark. Imagine like a rectangle box. Phones come in handy. Imagine a rectangle box with rings, ring, 2 poles this way, right? One this. 1 Levite standing here with the pole on his shoulder, 1 in the back, 1 in the front, 1 in the back on both sides. I don't know if that came through in the image, in the visual, but work with me on this. There's an interesting law that the Torah says. The Torah says the poles should never be taken out of the ark, out of the rings. Keep the poles in. which all the commentaries are wondering why. When you're traveling, you need to have the poles to transport the ark. You can't just put it on a wagon pulled by an animal. You got to hold it, human transport. Got it. But when you set up camp and you set up the tabernacle, you got all the tribes around. Everyone's kind of settling in, making a barbecue, throwing around the frisbee, concerts. I'm kidding, or maybe not. Whatever was going on then, yeah. But everything was stable. Everything was settled. Why not take out the poles? It's a beautiful teaching. Many different answers to this. One answer is that the Torah is always meant to be transportable. At any moment, we have to be ready to take the Torah and move, because that is the only thing that we've had with us, right? Have Torah, we'll travel. Torah is the ultimate carry-on item. It's what goes with us. It always has the poles because it's always meant to go wherever we are. Torah goes with us. And again, this is beautifully expressed by the fact that the Torah is the center of the Jewish encampment. It's not like off to the side. It's not like up on top of a mountain. The people lived over here, but the temple was over there. Nope. Right in the middle of the encampment. Right in the center of the Jewish camp. It's powerful. It's a powerful idea. Torah is the center of our identity. I want to share with you a very interesting idea. You know what? Before we do that, I want to share with you my screen so that we can just see some of these verses. We're talking about this encampment. It's always good to look at the verses inside. So here you go. Here's third reading, Bamidbar, for Tuesday, which is today. Take a look. Numbers chapter 2, verse number 1. God spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, take a look at this. The children of Israel shall encamp each man by his division with the flagstaffs of their father's house. In other words, by their tribal positions. Some distance from the tent of meeting they shall encamp. Those camping in front to the east were the legions under the division of the camp of Judah. And then it talks about who the leader of Judah was, Nachshon, the son of Aminadab. By the way, this guy Nachshon, he was not only the tribal leader of Judah, but when it came time for the splitting of the sea, remember when the Jews left Egypt and the Egyptians chased them and pinned them against the sea, and God said, keep on moving and it's going to split? There was only one guy who had the faith to walk in the water till it got up to his nose. And that was Nachshon, this guy, Nachshon, from the tribe of Judah. He walked into that sea of reeds till it got up to his nose, and then when it got to his nose, then it split. So he's a guy who was ready to jump in, and he became the leader of that tribe, and that tribe Judah became the leader of those three tribes that camp by the east. The other tribes on the east were Issachar and Zebulun. So I'll do it in the Hebrew. You had Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zevulun. These were the three tribes on the east. Okay. Then you have in the south the legions under the division of the camp of Reuben were to the south. So in the south there were three tribes: Reuven or Reuben, Shimon, Simeon, and Gad. Those are the three tribes to the south. So we've done the east, the south. Let's keep on rotating around. Let's talk about the Levites in the center. Yeah, we got that. Okay, Ephraim. The west. We did the east, the south, now the west. Feivel goes west. Nope, Ephraim goes west. Not Feivel. Ephraim goes west. Okay, Ephraim was at the west along with Manasseh and Benjamin. So those three tribes, Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin, were to the west. By the way, they were all very much family, because Ephraim and Manasseh were the children of Joseph, and Joseph and Benjamin were the only two sons from, if you recall, from Rachel. Jacob's wife Rachel had two sons. They were Joseph and Benjamin. Joseph got sold, and he had two sons. He went to Egypt, viceroy, the whole story of Joseph, Technicolor Dreamcoats. He had two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. They split off into two tribes and took the place of Levi. Levi is not counted amongst the tribes. They were the Levites. They had a different count. So how do you get to 12 tribes if you only have 11 sons, minus Levi, because you have Ephraim and Manasseh who split up. So you have on the west Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin. Okay, let's go to the north. That's all we're left with is the north. So Dan, was to the north, along with Asher, not the rapper, Asher the tribe, and that's Asher with you, and Naphtali. Those were the 3 tribes to the north. And if you look, I'm going to stop my share again. If you look at, once again, this picture, you'll see it. You should be able to see it right here. This is the east, and this is Judah, Issachar, and Zevulun. And to the south, you have Reuven, Shimon, and Dan. And to the west, you have Ephraim, Menashe, and Benjamin. And to the north, you have Dan, Asher, and Naphtali. Okay, so those are your tribal encampments, in case you want to know. By the way, 10 lost tribes. We don't know who, most of the tribes, we have more or less identity of that. So we know Kohanim, Leviim, we know tribe of Judah, and maybe Benjamin, but otherwise it gets a little bit dicey after that. And I was going to say, if you know, now that you know where your tribal tribes are camping, now you know where to camp next time you go camping. But again, we don't know most of the tribes, which affiliation they are. But let's get back to a very interesting point. On the south, to the south, there were 3 tribes. Okay? Reuven, Shimon, and Gad. Now, the interesting thing is, there were also Levites all around, on all the sides. There were 3 Levite families on the north, west, and south. And then Moses, Aaron, and Aaron's sons on the east. So I want to show this to you one more time. But now, don't look at the tribes. Look at the Levites. Okay? On the bottom, on the south, you see it says Kehath's descendants. Kehath's descendants. Levi had 3 sons. Like the original Levi. The Levite tribe comes from Levi. Levi had three sons. Gershon, Kehath, and Merari. Kehath was one of the Levite families. They encamped in the south. Here's what I'm building up to. This is an amazing concept. Kehath, amongst the family of Kehath, which is one of the Levite families, amongst that family, amongst that mishpacha, was a man whose name has become synonymous with infamy in Jewish circles, in biblical circles. And that is a man named Korach. Who was Korach? Korach was a Levite who went to battle against Moses and Aaron. We're going to have this in an upcoming Torah portion near you. No, an upcoming Torah portion in the book of Numbers. One of them is called, the name of the portion is called Korach, and it talks about how this Levite named Korach starts talking to the rest of the people and saying, hey, what's with this Moses and Aaron? Ooh, we're the leaders, we're the priests, we're the Levites business. What makes them better than us? Who makes them the leader? Now, Korach wanted to be the leader, so he appealed to this whole, egalitarianism, this whole everyone's a leader type business, even though he wanted to be the leader. So that was a fraud. But here's what you need to know. Korach starts making problems. And he starts creating an uprising and a bit of a coup against Moses and Aaron until God has to indicate and vindicate Moses and Aaron's leadership and put an end to it. But who got sucked into it? Who got sucked into the uprising of Korach? Wouldn't you know it? The tribe of Reuven. It was Reuven that got caught up into it. The Torah tells us later, again, we're not up to there yet, but I'm telling you, Torah tells us later that it was the tribe of Reuben, that got pulled into it. You know why? Because look where they all lived. Korach comes from the Kehath family from the south. Reuven lived on the south. They were all neighbors. So yeah, you have the neighbor who's the activist. Who's the, I don't know, whatever, right? The rabble-rouser guy. They got pulled into it, which leads our sages to tell us. Listen to this. This leads the Talmud to say, I'm going to say it in Hebrew and then translate. Oy l'rasha v'oy l'shcheno. Translate. Oy is like oy, ayve, like whoa, not like, all right, W-O-E, like whoa in a negative way. Woe to the wicked and woe to his neighbor. It's not good to have a bad neighbor because you'll get sucked into all sorts of monkey business. That's what the Talmud says. Oy l'rasha, oy l'shchenai. Woe to the wicked and woe to his neighbor. Man, that's a bad way, it's dangerous. Dangerous, that's why. The Talmud says, the Mishnah says, and the Talmud says, don't live next to a negative influence. Why? Because you might get sucked into something no good. That's what happened to the tribe of Reuven. They were good people, minding their own business. All it takes is one dude, one bad apple, who then has an influence. But who did he influence? The neighbors, because those were the ones that he lived next to. So again, the Talmud cautions us, be careful who your neighbors are. I know we live in a different world now. It's like, who even knows their neighbors, right? Well, many of us do, but some of us don't. And, whatever, it is what it is. But the Talmud says, the Mishnah says, Jewish law says, Jewish wisdom says, be careful. Now, I want to share with you one more point about this. We're not done yet. The Talmud also says, Toiv l'tzadik v'toiv l'shchenoi. You know what that means?
Good.
Tov. What does Tov mean?
Good.
Good. Tov is good. Tov mode, very good. Tov means good. Tov l'tzadik, it's good for the righteous. V'tov l'shcheno, and it's good to be his neighbor. So, in contrast to what we said about the bad neighbor, we say the opposite about the good neighbor. It's good to be good, and it's good to be the neighbor of someone who's good. They'll have a positive influence on you. So now let me ask you a question. This is like such a Jewish question. So what happens if you have a good person and a bad person living next to each other? Do we say, woe to the wicked and woe to the neighbor? It's no good. Or do we say, it's good for the righteous and good for the neighbor? Which one applies? You understand my question? If you have someone good and someone not good next door, yeah? Is the influence going to go from the wicked to the righteous or from the righteous to the wicked? What do you think? It depends. The answer is, of course, it depends. It depends on who's more active. That's it. That's it. Who's taking on that role of being the influencer? We live in a very influencer society. Insta-influencers, Instagram and TikTok, and everyone wants to be an influencer. You get paid to be an influencer, but that's another conversation. The question, though, is here, who is doing the influencing? You have a good person and a not-so-good person. Who's doing the influencing? So here we have a beautiful message. It's not telling us, let's say you're a good person. Not let's say. I know you're a good person, right? You're a good person. You find out that there's someone who's needs some improvement. Do you move in or not? Based on the first statement, woe to the wicked, woe to the neighbor, don't, because they're going to influence you. But based on the second teaching that I share with you, good for the righteous and good for their neighbor, you should move in. You know why? Because you want to help that guy improve. So because you know that you carry a sense of morality and decency and goodness, so even if you find out that the neighbor may not be like that, doesn't matter. Move in and influence that guy and don't be influenced. The way it works is, as we're being active, influencing, projecting, we don't take in, we don't absorb. I want to give you a halachic. You're going to love this. So you may know this. How do you kosher a fork? Let's say you have a fork, like a utensil, a metal fork. That became not kosher. Yeah, and now you want to kosher it. How do you kosher a fork? You know what you do? You take who knows?
Boiling water.
Yeah, a pot, boiling water. Yeah, you take a pot of boiling water, and you take your fork, and you drop it in, and you wait till the boil can, because it might stop the boiling, the cold metal, whatever. You wait till it picks up again. Don't put your hand in there. Right? Carefully use a tong or something, tongs to pull it out. Mazel tov, kosher. How does that work? Let me explain. What does it mean that the molecules are moving around? And it's more porous at that point. And so when it comes in contact, whether the fork is hot or whether the food is hot and heats up the fork because you put your fork in a hot steak, let's say, whatever it is, so it becomes hot, and at that point we say, halacha considers that the actual utensil has absorbed the flavor of the non-kosher. Let's say it's not kosher. If it's kosher, it's fine. Let's say it's not kosher. So the item, let's say the fork, absorbs the flavor of the non-kosher, and thus the next time you use it, what's going to happen? It's going to come out into the kosher food, right? So now you have a fork. The fork's not kosher, so you can have it in your drawer. It's fine, but if you use it, then it's going to leak out some of that original non-kosherness to the other food and make that food not kosher. So therefore, you have to kosher it. How do you kosher it? Let me get back to my point here. How do you kosher it? You take the fork, you put it in a pot of boiling water, and what does that do? You have to make sure that the water is more than 1/60th. Sorry, to make sure that the fork is less than 1/60th of the volume of the water, or the absorption, at least in the fork, is less than 1/60th of the water, and that koshers because the non-kosher absorption in the fork comes out into the water, becomes nullified into the water, and that is it. Question is, what happens if, or why don't we say, on any level, that the absorption should go back into the fork? Or what if you have two forks? Maybe the absorption goes back into the forks. It went out and goes back in. I said nullified, but there's another idea here. And that is that because the metal in this state is giving out its absorption, it doesn't take in the absorption at the same time. It's one direction only. In the language of halacha, aidi depalit, this is Aramaic, aidi depalit, leibai lemiflat. As it's lemivlat, as it's giving out, it doesn't have the opportunity to take in. And this becomes the final point that I'd like to share with you again about the neighbors. If you are influencing, if you are moving out, I don't mean moving out physically, I mean like if the energy that's radiating from you is that influencing energy, then as you're influencing, you're not taking in, you're not being influenced. This becomes a beautiful lesson in life. Be the influencer, be the positive influence, and if you're the positive influence, you don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to worry about, oh no, what's going to happen? Am I going to be influenced? We should never shy away from a challenge. We should have the self-confidence to know that we can put ourselves in places where maybe, there's a lot of work that needs to be worked on, and a lot of room for improvement. We should put ourselves in those places and do the work and be the influencer and not worry that we're going to be influenced, because as long as we're active, we're going to be doing the influencing and not becoming the influenced. So, the wicked is a bad influence. The righteous is a good influence. So be the righteous who lives next to the wicked that has the positive influence. By the way, I'm not saying your neighbor should be wicked. I'm just saying have a positive influence wherever you go. Radiate positivity, radiate joy, radiate meaning and value and purpose and values and ethics and morals and law and order. Radiate goodness, radiate menshiness. Be a mensch. It's contagious. And don't worry about being influenced if you're influencing. All right, that's it for today. So let me recap what we did. We talked about the encampment, how the Jews surrounded the tabernacle. We said that in life, it's important to protect those things that are dear, our soul, our innocence, our purity. Protect it from the north, the influences, the coldness, the heat from the south, the arrogance from the east, and the despair from the west. We spoke about the notion that Torah is at the center of Jewish life and Jewish survival. We then spoke about the encampment in the sense that neighbors can be influenced. We talked about Korach, the Levite, who caused the rebellion against Moses, or who tried to stir up a rebellion against Moses, that it gained traction within the tribe of Reuven. And we couldn't help but notice that they were neighbors. We spoke about the dangers of having a bad neighbor, the positive of having a good neighbor, and how when the two coexist, whoever let the greater influencer win, because that's the way it is. So let's be active, let's be influencing, all for the good. All right, at this point you can unmute yourself, jump in, ask a question, or just say shalom, just say farewell. All right, bye everybody.
Ari, I had a quick question.
Yes.
In my chat, why do you
Oh, I
use
didn't see.
rock when you kosher something?
Good question. Excellent question. So the rock is used, the stone is heated up to a very high temperature, a stone that conducts heat in a very extreme way, and when it's put into, in a koshering situation, it actually augments the heat of the boiling water to make it that much hotter. It's not just any rock, it's meant to be heated. So usually what you do is you put the stone, the koshering stone, in the oven, crank it up, get it really hot, and then in combination with the boiling water, it really sizzles. That's what you want to do. Look, the best way to kosher is with a blowtorch. But a blowtorch is not going to be safe for every surface and every item. Blowtorch or fork, it may end up a little bit drippy. You may not have a fork anymore. So what we do is we use boiling water. We say that, we didn't cook with a blowtorch, or we didn't, your steak wasn't a blowtorch. It was just hot. So the hot water should do. But, we kosher certain things with a stone. By the way, you should know, in many instances, a blowtorch is used, especially when you kosher an industrial kitchen. There are hotels, I think today less than back in the day. Back in the day, you didn't have kosher hotels. Even today, it's rare. I mean, Atlanta has a few hotels that have a kosher kitchen. In Buckhead, there's one. Which one is it? I forgot the name of it. Whatever, there's a few in Atlanta that have kosher kitchens. But back in the day, if you didn't have a kosher kitchen and you wanted to have a wedding, let's say, a simcha at a hotel, so the kosher caterer and the rabbi, you come in and literally kosher the industrial kitchen. Well, can you imagine a hotel kitchen? Stainless steel, for miles. Think about the surfaces. Tons of stainless steel. Strong stainless steel. Perfect for a blowtorch. You don't want to be pouring boiling water over. I mean, it's so inefficient. You're going to keep on boiling pots of water and keep on pouring it over every inch of the surface. You kidding me? Who has the time? Strap on the protective eyewear or protective gear, get a pair of gloves, crank up your blowtorch, and you go to town. You heat up the surface. Could the kitchen surface get ruined? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it ruins it. It doesn't ruin it. The hotels wouldn't let it. I remember back in the day, the rabbis, they would go in Pittsburgh, growing up in Pittsburgh, they would have the caterer and the rabbi or the mashgiach, whoever's, working it. They would go in a day before or the morning of, kosher, probably the day before, you have to go do all the cooking, kosher the kitchen, blowtorch it up, self-clean the ovens, and then go to town. You don't need stones in that case. But otherwise, if you're using boiling water, we try to use a stone because it conducts the heat in a very, it keeps the heat in a very, very powerful way. That's it. All right. Great to see you, Mark. How's everything?
Yeah.
Good.
Going crazy.
Oh, you can Val. Don't go crazy. Don't go crazy. Don't go crazy yet. I'll let you know when it's time. I'll let you know. Until then, hold strong. All right. Ray, it's great to see you.
On my phone during my lunch break. And
Nice.
show up with the name because I don't have an account.
No worries. It's perfect. Mike, how's everything?
We're good. We're getting through.
Nice.
Living the quarantine life.
Are you back in the office or working from home?
I'm still working from home. They've started to open the office, but on a very limited basis, like a quarter of the office is supposed to be in every single week, and I guess as people get more comfortable and as we get more guidelines, they'll start to ramp that up to 100%. But they're leaving it up to people's discretion. So my week is next week, but I'll probably end up staying home.
Yeah, I mean, if you can work from home, why not? I mean, I think it's great. I mean, it's stay safe and why not? Yeah. Very cool.
It's much easier to take a lunch break and study some Torah here than.
Yes.
Well, I try to at lunch when I'm at work, but have a little bit more flexibility, nicer atmosphere, get to learn with the family. So.
Yes, I love it. All right, awesome. Give my best to Amy and to Eli.
We will.
Awesome. Good. All right. See you guys. See you, Mark. Don't forget, tonight is Judaism at Home Part 3. If you're part of that, awesome. If not, feel free to join. Just message me. Love to have you there. All right. We'll see y'all. Take care. Have a wonderful day. And stay healthy and safe. Bye.
Thank you.